Life is dynamic, change is constant, and sometimes the people we least expect to enter politics are the very people who believe they can change society the most. In a country where leadership has often emerged from activism, party structures, military influence, and populist politics, one man is now asking Gambians to believe in a different path, a path shaped by research, by academia, by policy, and by years inside the classroom. Professor Siddharth Yafa.
This is the first time in the history of an academics genuinely who has served with distinction and at this highest level, professor level, because there is no other rank above professor in any university, who is ready to serve his country at the political level.
Since independence, the Gambia has mostly been led by politicians shaped not by academia, but by political structures, grassroots mobilizations, and power struggles. In the First Republic, Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara, himself an educated veterinary doctor, built leadership around party loyalty and rural connection. Jawara understood the villages. He understood the people. Intellectualism alone did not define leadership. Connection did. Then came 1994. Yahya Jammeh ruled for 22 years. His leadership was not built on academic credentials, but on military authority, charisma, and populist messaging. Whatever people thought of him, he knew how to speak directly to ordinary Gambians. In 2016, Adama Barrow emerged once again not as an academic figure, but as a coalition candidate many saw as relatable and accessible. He was not presented as the most educated man in the room. He was presented as someone people could trust. And perhaps that has always been the pattern.
So, I mean, historically, what we have had in the past is that politicians, and even present, mostly our politicians or our presidents, to be specific, do not have background in academia. So Gambians do not necessarily believe that politicians need to have background in academia. And as I said, this is as a result of the level of political awareness of the country. So, I mean, usually people just believe that politicians or presidents need to be practical people, people who will just put into practice, the reality. I mean, what should be done? It should just be done, and they don't care about whether you have a background in academia or not.
In Gambian politics, trust often speaks louder than decrees. For decades, intellectuals have occupied an uncertain place in Gambian politics. Many voters see academics as distant, too theoretical, too complex. Some argue that scholars are good at ideas, but not necessarily leadership.
Traditionally, Gambians, especially those who have never been to school, our parents and grandparents, our mothers, aunties, sisters who have never been to school, they regard what we call Tubab Karanding unreliable. Meaning, those of us who have been through the Western education system were unreliable because whatever we say we will do, we seldom do it.
Over the years, several highly educated Gambians have sought political influence. P.S. Njai, J.C. Fai, Balag Bajahumpa, Halifa Saleh, Hussein Dabo, Issa Fall, respected minds, strong debaters, policy-driven figures. Yet, none made it to State House. So what makes Professor Yafa different?
He's a very organized person, very philanthropic, and a man of great character. When he says something, know that he would keep his word. When his first word is no, know that he will not change it for anything. But if he also promises, he always fulfills it.
For more than a decade, Professor Yafa has built a career around climate science, agriculture, research, and higher education. Through the WASCAL program, he helped establish climate education and research opportunities for Gambian students. Under projects linked to renewable energy and climate resilience, communities across the country benefited from solar installations, youth training programs, and agricultural initiatives. But beyond the classroom, many also notice a growing interest in national affairs, an academic increasingly concerned with governance, policy, and the future direction of the country.
He is very philanthropic because he has supported a lot of people in terms of funding their education. He has supported a lot of communities. He is also a sport enthusiast who has supported a lot of sport initiatives that I've witnessed firsthand. He is also somebody, as I said, of high moral character.
Professor Yafa argues that influence without authority has limits. According to him, academia can shape ideas, but political power determines implementation.
I want to move on with this political agenda. In that way, I'll be able to do more for the Gambia.
Politiko man kumaya ment
doku bundati je
adoku bundate je
politiko man kumaya
politiko man kumaya ment
kare alkanyim projectol men be jila bilala banko
alkanyim projectol men beje kana banko kan
for agriculture projectol
for agriculture lamba
for jata kendala
for jata kendala
for karanglamba
for karangolam
politicianole
politicianolu
na députéoli
dibiteli
walla kake
luwati
ay tama banko ka
ye song ay tama banko kan.
But politics is not won through credentials alone. Elections in the Gambia are rarely decided by degrees. They are won in the markets, in villages, and at bantabas. They are won through emotion, connection, and trust. Now, as the country moves closer to another presidential election, a deeper question begins to emerge. Are Gambians ready to elect a leader defined primarily by expertise and intellectual depth, or will politics once again favor familiarity, personality, and populist appeal?
Well, while research has shown that a lot of Gambian voters are undecided, but we also have a lot of Gambian voters that are already decided. It's either they align with parties or candidates based on sociological model of voting, based on identity, social identity, or they align with them based on party identification model because their parents have been long-term supporters of that party and they feel like that party belongs to them or they belong to that party. So, I mean, you have a lot of people, a lot of voters that have already made up their mind as to which candidate or party they're going to vote for. So for new entrants to be able to penetrate and make nationwide recognition to be able to attract voters is not an easy task. That's a very Herculean task. And I hope that new entrants have that at the back of their mind, that they got to do a lot of work. And that is why there have been calls for, a unified opposition coalition to be able to canvass votes across the length and breadth of the country, because a lot of people, as I said, have already made up their mind. Either they align with parties based on sociological model or party identification model.
But perhaps this story is larger than Professor Yafa himself. Perhaps it's really about change, about how people evolve and how societies respond when familiar roles begin to shift. Can a lecturer become a national political figure? Can academic influence become political power? Can policy-driven leadership compete in a system often shaped by populism? And ultimately, is the Gambia ready for a different kind of presidency? Because in the end, the documentary is not only asking whether Professor Yafa is ready. The deeper question is, are Gambians ready for him?